call.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Carwin.
Present.
Commissioner Phillips.
Present.
Vice Chair
Present.
Sobek. Here. And Chair Thomas.
Here.
And I'll note Commissioner Folsom is absent.
Yes. Let's go ahead and stand for the flag salute. Lisa, would you mind leading us on the flag salute?
Yeah, I was a Cub Scout then. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have any, agenda modifications? We were gonna move item number 9.2 to as the first public hearing. So if you can make a note of that when we get to it.
Okay.
Any other modifications that I need to know about?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have no presentations? Do we have any public comments at this time?
We don't on that item.
We do or
We
don't?
do not.
We do not have any.
Yours is on 9.2. We're just on the regular public comment portion right now.
These are general public comments.
Yours is on the public hearing, so when that opens, we'll call for that item.
Okay, so we have approval of the minutes from February 25th. Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes as written.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Nothing on the consent calendar, so that moves us to item 9.2, which we're going to hear first, which is the public hearing for plot plan 2014-263 for proposed plan type multi-generation suite on the corner of Menifee Road and Trailhead, Menifee Hills project. Okay, do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Good evening. Lisa Gordon, the planning manager, will review this plot plan application with you, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have. And I believe the applicant's also with us here this evening as well.
Good evening, Lisa Gordon presenting the proposed plan type with the multi-generational suite. The project site is located east of Menifee Road and south of Trailhead. The zoning surrounding the site is the specific plan number 158, Menifee Village. To the north, east, and south is medium-density residential, which is the same as the project site, and then to the west is residential and open space. The plot plan proposes a new plan type with a multi-generation suite to be included in the Menifee Hills residential development. The proposed plan is for a one-story home and has a total square footage of 2,863 square feet. The floor plan provides for a 1,808 square foot main residence with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a den/dining room. There's a 476 square foot multi-generation suite within this house. It includes area for a kitchen and living room, bathroom, and a separate bedroom. There's a 518 square foot garage and 61 square feet of covered porch area. In February of 2014, Lennar Homes had previously proposed plans that included a multi-generational suite within this residential development, and staff presented that proposal with the multi-generational suites to the Planning Commission and asked the Planning Commission for direction on this type of product. The main issues of concern from the staff report included whether or not the homes with the multi-generation suites would be considered a single-family home, and the Planning Commission determined that a home with a multi-generational suite that met certain requirements would still be considered a single-family home. And the other issue was whether or not we could allow multi-generational suites under a second unit permit, but the second unit permits would not be able to be approved for multi-generation suites with full kitchens due to lot size requirements of the city's second unit permit ordinance. The city's ordinance for second units has a 14,400 square foot minimum lot size requirement, and most tract home lots are within 5,000 to 8,000 square feet. So you could not have a multi-generation suite with a full kitchen under a second unit. At the Planning Commission meeting on February 11, 2014, the Planning Commission approved requirements for multi-generational suites. These included that we require universal design or age in place, require a single gas, water, and electrical meter for multi-generational homes, prohibit garage to bedroom conversions, exclude exterior door entry directly into the multi-generational unit, offer one shared laundry room, prohibit kitchen facilities such as a range oven installation, and if the project is within a specific plan, the plan should be amended to address multi-generation homes. After that planning commission meeting, Lennar Homes opted to remove the multi-generational suites from their proposal. May 5th, 2014, the Lennar's final site of development plan, which included plans with no multi-generational suites, was approved by the Community Development Department. December 22nd, 2014, Lennar Homes submitted a new application to revise the approved final site of development plan for their Menifee Hills development to include a multi-generation suite. The multi-generation suite proposed currently is much smaller than what was originally presented to the Planning Commission in February 2014 and is not provided with its own separate garage. However, the multi-generation suite does not comply with all of the requirements developed by the Planning Commission in February 2014. The project is consistent with the requirement for a single gas, water, and electrical meter. The development would prohibit the garage to bedroom conversions. It would be in the CCNRs and a condition of approval on the project. The proposal does prohibit kitchen facilities. There is no oven or gas range within the multi-generation unit, and the applicant has included universal design age-in-place features. The floor plan, as I mentioned, provides items to meet the intent of visitability and age-in-place concepts. The plan includes 36-inch wide doors, lever hardware, backing for grab bars, a roll-in shower, and clear space in front of toilets and sinks. One of the questions we had for the commission is whether or not this is an acceptable amount of universal design principles incorporated into the floor plan. The project does not comply with the requirement to exclude an exterior door entry directly into the multi-generational unit. There is an external door that comes off of the porch. You can kind of see it if you can see the arrow on the screen. There's the exterior door. However, the suite is connected to the rest of the house through interior hallways and doorways, so there's still a way to get to that suite from inside the house. The suite also provides its own laundry room, which was a requirement that the Planning Commission did not want. They wanted a shared laundry room. The applicant is asking for the Planning Commission to reconsider these requirements. In addition, there was a requirement from the Planning Commission that if the project is within a specific plan, the plan shall be amended to address multi-generational homes. This project is in the Menifee Village specific plan, and although the specific plan does not address multi-generational suites, the project is consistent with the specific plan requirements for single-family residential. Amendments to specific plans can cost anywhere between $8,500 and $100,000. Amendments take at least 5 months to process due to SB 18 requirements, which requires that the city to notify and consult with Native American tribes on specific plan amendments, general plan amendments, change of zones. Another option is to process a substantial conformance to the specific plan. The cost is similar, but processing is reduced to 2 to 3 months. Substantial conformances to specific plans are used for minor changes to specific plan documents. The applicant is asking that the commission reconsider the requirement to amend the specific plan. This specific plan is nearly built out. The area in purple shows portions of the specific plan that have already been constructed. The areas in red are approved tract maps that have not yet been constructed, and the yellow is the project site. There are 147 lots within the Menifee Hills development, and 15 of those maximum would have the multi-generational units. The amendment to the specific plan, if it was required, would include revisions to the design guidelines to incorporate the requirements for the multi-generational suites and some revisions to the zoning ordinance. Another issue that came up in the original staff report was traffic and parking. The developer is open to the commission placing plotting restrictions or conditions on all multi-generational homes. For example, the developer would accept a condition that Lennar would not be able to plot a multi-generational home directly next to and or across from another multi-generational home. And there could be a possible requirement of 2 or 3 non-multi-generational homes between multi-generational homes. So there would be more street parking available. The developer has noted that the plotting restriction or condition has been incorporated in other cities that allow Lennar to build multi-generational homes. At this time, staff recommends or requests that you provide guidance to staff on the acceptability of the proposed plan with the multi-generational suite and authorize staff to approve or deny the new plan type based as submitted or as directed by the commission. This concludes staff presentation.
Thank you. Does any of the commissioners have questions of staff?
I have a question. We were submitted via email some documents from Lennar, including some media articles. Are those going to be part of the record for this hearing and this decision process?
Yes.
They are included. Thank you.
Any other questions, staff? Okay, then let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Did you have one, Earl? Any question?
Yes, but it's very technical. I need to talk to the city engineer.
Well, is it something that would have a bearing on our decision?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
not at all.
Then we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:13. Was this properly noticed and published?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. Would the applicant like to speak? Yes, please. Okay. Are you Mr. Jeremiah Akaituri?
No, I'll introduce myself. My name's Jeff Clemens with Lennar, Main Street, Corona. We did bring a little AV presentation. Would that be possible to play? I don't know if that's part of the group. It's about 5 minutes at most, I think.
Do you
That's
want
fine.
your PowerPoint or the media?
I was hoping for the little splash of the media was what I
Okay.
was hoping for, because it gives, again, to put it on the record, there's a news article part of it that I'd like to be part of with the
That's fine.
Commissioner.
Did you bring popcorn or anything?
Jeremiah.
America's population is aging, children are staying home longer, and more extended families are living together.
When the Cox family began searching for a new home, extra space for relatives was key.
A nationally recognized builder is using the Valley to unveil a new trend in home floor plans.
Take a closer look and you'll find it's actually a home within a home.
Lennar Homes calls it a home within a home.
The home within a home.
The home within the home concept here intrigued us.
Builder Lennar introduced a floor plan tailor-made for these families.
First of its kind in the U.S., geared for multi-generational families.
The next-gen home features a separate living quarter in a house zoned as single-family. The Coxes bought a next-gen home so they can one day take care of their parents.
As folks are getting together to live, find ways that are more financially feasible, it seems to make a lot of sense to provide a product that will allow people to do that in a way that's most comfortable for them.
It's more than just a bedroom bathroom. It's got its own living room, its own kitchenette area, and it's got its own entrance into the home.
Its own bathroom with a stacked washer dryer, its own bedroom, and access to a rear yard for its own patio.
It just allows for multifunctional living within under the same roof.
This allows you to take care of an aging parent, a child that may have gone off to the workplace and moved back, a child that may be divorced and needs a place to come back and live, and yet maintain their privacy.
People are using it for workout rooms, for their guest room. People are, sisters are living together and divorcees are living together. So it's something that creates a separate living area that people can have their independence, but still be connected to the main home.
The out-of-the-box approach has given them something new to both build and market.
We presented to the design review board, and it was interesting. The initial response was, thank you for designing a home for the way that people already live today.
We had a little preview, a little sneak preview yesterday. and we had over 300 people RSVP for that.
To everyone who walks through the homes, you know, some of the common responses, finally a builder gets it.
We're good then. We won't go the
This
whole
house
thing.
really has.
I just wanted to get one article there. There's another one right after that. They probably have about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different international or national news broadcasts on that. Once again, Jeff Clemens with Lennar. I kind of like to talk about not so much the code component, but more the intent and the inspiration that we had behind the Next Gen. In about 2010, we started noticing that there was a lot of boomerang kids, that there were multi-generational living, and we really didn't have a home that fit their need. We spent approximately 9 months focus grouping, studying, looking at what we could do to provide a home that allowed for people, generations to live together within those needs. And ultimately what it boiled down to was unique independent living, but not being independent. It was about how do I have the ability to live with my family, but not be involved in my day-to-day, every part of my family's business. And so when it came down to the next generation, next-gen homes that we were building, it was about the laundry facility so I didn't have to go upstairs and impose upon my kids. Or the fact that my son or daughter with MS who I couldn't let live on their own can actually have their own experience of being an independent living person. It did mean that I had a door that I could let guests over that didn't involve me going through the main home, allowing people into my space. It did revolve around having a slight kitchenette where I could have a little cup of coffee. I could pop my own popcorn. It did mean the fact that I had what I felt like was my space, but I'm connected, and I was part of the overall group of that family. We started building them in 2011. If we could have my little PowerPoint thing real quick, because I do want to pop that in. We have built approximately 390 of these in the last, I'll say, since 2011 is when we closed our first home, through a multitude of jurisdictions, multitude of cities, multitude of communities. And ultimately, kind of the proof comes in the pudding. You can put an idea out there. You can say, okay, you could focus group it all you want, but when it came right down to it, what was the actual application? What did the buyers do? And what we found was kind of what we thought, but not quite. This isn't for everybody. It's very clear. If I walk into that home, I'm not buying it. I don't have a need. I have no plan on having my parents come back to me anytime soon, or my kids. But there were people. There's people that I could say here as I stand with that have tears in their eyes that were like, my mom lives in Arizona. I'm paying $4,000 a month, and this home lets me bring her home because there's no way she's going to live with me. But once I show her the fact that she can be here and not in my family, I will let her come back. And so within the 392 homes that we've built, recently in the city of Wildomar and Temecula, I actually live in one of the communities that have next-gen homes going along with them. And so as we go into the market, when we came here last year and the restrictions were placed upon the next-gen home, we said, well, it is a thing. It's not, you can't just pare it down and say it's kind of something, because for us, it is either this idea that somebody can come and live in this home and be independent and be part of my family. Because once you take away the exterior door, once you take away those parts of that make it less independent, then it's not a next gen. And we won't build it. We just won't, because that's just not what we want to provide, because we found from the feedback that those parts are what make it special. Those parts are what make it a different kind of place for people to live, that buyer, that person out there looking for something like this actually gravitates toward. We also find that it does sell for a premium, because those people that want it, want it. Those people that don't, they don't. So within that concept, that's why we're coming back here again. There are several residents here from the community within it that probably aren't going to speak favorably or for it, but again, it goes back to us as an idea. And plotting, if it comes down to plotting next to any of our neighbors that already exist, we want people to be happy in our communities. We have if our neighbors that are already there, our home buyers, would have issues with having these homes on their street or whatever it may be, it would not be an issue to us. We wouldn't. That's not our goal. Our goal is to provide a product in Menifee, because candidly, we'd want to take it to the lakes where we're building again in the future, where we're just starting, to offer this to those home buyer segments. And so that's why we're asking the Planning Commission to reconsider this, and hopefully you can look favorably upon it and see it. If you have any questions specific to the product, I'm more than happy to answer anything I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Does the commission have any questions of the applicant while we had him up there? Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and have public testimony for that.
Okay. Floyd Janford. Floyd Janford. Oh, if you could just step to the podium, sir.
Mostly, I guess I just have questions in how this whole multi-gen thing works out. Does the city of Menifee have other multi-generation housing tracts within it so that you have some idea of how they affect the living in those communities? Because if there's no real major effect as to how that particular community operates, then I don't see a really big problem with it. But if the city of Menifee has already had these things in and has had parking problems and those kinds of things, rental problems and all of that, then I probably don't particularly want it in my neighborhood. So mostly I was here just to get some information as to how the whole thing actually worked out. I'm not hard over yes or no in either case. More of, I just want to know how it affects the people that are living in those communities. Then I'd have a better idea as to say, no, I definitely don't want this in my community, or no, it's okay with me, I don't care. And then I also, the questions for Lennar is particularly where those houses, they thought those houses were going to be located within the community.
Okay, thank you.
Pamela Doherty.
I live in Menifee Hills, and we purchased first under contract, and it was based on the plans presented to us, which did not include a next-gen home. We were originally under contract in Rancho Bella Vista and opted out of there because of the multi-generational homes. It was Lennar as well. And the parking, it was overcrowded. It was just a nightmare. So we came over to the lovely city of Menifee. And additionally, we lived in Marietta on Rose Blossom Drive in Veranda Community. They did include a casita/next generation home with a separate entrance. Those homes turned into low-income rentals. Most people were renting for about $550. Same meter, little kitchenette, same problem. And we dealt with neighbors who rented to problem people. Our gorgeous community quickly turned into having police there often, dealing with drugs, or the tenant became a problem. Owners had problems with their tenants, evicting tenants. So it's just like, I didn't want to live in that community, and we did leave that area. And unless there's some guarantees these will not be on my block, Abilene Glen, I would strongly object to it. Living through it and seeing what it did to my property and my property values, who's going to police that no one's renting that out when grandma dies? Or, whatever you purchase this home for. Because then you have this, I can make extra money to offset my mortgage. And I really did not purchase this home in Menifee to live next to rental properties. I purchased to have my forever home and it be in a nice community. Everybody's yard's pretty, everybody's happy, the happy American dream. So unless there's guarantees that come along with this type of next-gen home, I don't want it on my block or in my neighborhood. I understand there's two parts to Menifee Hills. There's Summit, which is where we are, the back part of the property, and then there's, I can't remember the other part of it. So there are options besides putting it in our neighborhood. They could put it up front. But unless somebody's actually lived in that type of situation with those type of homes, it gets difficult, and people will, when the times are hard, especially when the economy took a downturn in 2008, those casitas went really quick for rental income. And I understand you can rent a room in your house.
That is your time. That's your 3 minutes. Thank you.
He got to present a video.
He's the applicant.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further speakers on this item, sir.
Okay. Says, well, we don't usually do this, but I guess we can. It's ask the applicant if he has anything further to add. Did you want to rebut anything or any clarification, I should say? Short clarification.
Sorry, with my pen up here. Jeff Clemens, Lennar. There is one current community, if I'm understanding, that is in Menifee Hills that has a quasi next gen component, and it's a DR Horn community by the name of, I don't know. Right across the street, it does have one. The one part that I would state within the Rancho Bella Vista, that was one next-gen home out of 10 plans, and it's approximately 4% at the most of all the plans in that community. It's a lot of families there. Of the 12 to 14 communities that we operate, I'm on at least 4 HOA boards. I would say you have no more, no less parking issues with a next-gen than you don't a next-gen. When you have a 4,000 square foot home, you have lots of people, and that's really what happens on some of our homes. But as I said, with regards to the plotting mix, we have no desire to make any of our home buyers unhappy. So if it's us sitting down with them, my bigger concept is within the city of Menifee, we would like to provide this offering. We will be building more than just Menifee Hills. We're trying to figure out a way to provide something that we think the homeowners, our future home buyers of Menifee, would want to go and have that perspective. And if it's plotting them far away from our current home buyers, that's fine too. So that's what we're trying to work towards.
Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:29, and we'll go ahead and bring it to the dais. Lisa, do you want to go ahead and start? Did you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. I have questions. This may be for staff. Probably should have asked it earlier, but Lisa, are you familiar, how would a multi-generational home work with our, I guess there's an average number per household on a single residence, and per that, so much is figured into parks and fees. So when there's an increase of people in a house, how would this go towards our park or Quimby fees or anything like that?
There's an average number we use for the entire city for number of persons per dwelling. With this multi-generational suite in particular, it's a, trying to get to the slide, sorry. It's a smaller home to begin with.
Right, 1,800 square feet.
Yeah, and it has the 3 bedrooms, and with the multi-generational suite, that would be a 4th bedroom, you could consider it. Other builders, including Lennar, have homes with as many as 4 or 5 bedrooms standard. So really the number of bedrooms is consistent with other housing product.
Okay. All right, so that's already taken into consideration. The rental thing concerns me. When I moved here 25 years ago, me and my husband and our family, we looked for a home that had a downstairs bathroom and a downstairs bedroom in case my mother-in-law ever had to come live with us. She did have to come live with us. It wasn't a multi-generational home, but it was a home that had a bedroom and a bathroom, and it was a nice arrangement. Somehow, and also doing a little bit of reading and research, before World War II, this is the way a lot of families lived. And it is something that people are looking into. I did look on the internet and read some information, and yes, in 2008, you were very right that because of the downturn of the economy, it forced people to come and live together. Talking to Leslie Covey at our Senior Citizen Center here at the Case Sinacero Center, she does get people coming in there weekly looking for a home where parents can live with them, asking for the wider hallways, the wider door jambs, the lower thresholds, so that a parent can live and age in place. So I'm okay with having a few. I mean, we're looking at 15, and you said in the report if it didn't go well, you would look at changing that plan, I believe. But I do have a concern of what we can do so it does not become an extra rental space. I know seniors, one of the things the big thing seniors want is safety. They want to feel safe. And so the outdoor door on this porch, and I'm thinking as a visitor as well, walking up to this porch, you've got two doors. Which one do you go to? To the front door. So I'm not sure if that exit, you need it. I would prefer not to have that exit. I like the universal design elements you did add. You took into consideration the bath, the 360-degree turn. I mean, that was good. Laundry facility, I don't know so much. I ended up having to help my mother-in-law with her laundry because she needed help. That's why she was living with us. So I'm wondering if we can come to a balance and somehow work this out, but definitely protecting if the economy tanks again. I saw plenty of neighbors in my neighborhood turn garages into little studio apartments where they were renting them and people were going out the garage side door. People get around the rules, and I live in a master plan community. They get around it. So I just think we do have people that are living longer. We have the baby boomers. I think there needs to be plenty of parking, like you said, not near another home. This one only has a 2-car garage, so that would be a concern of cars if it was an active senior couple living there or another family member, teenagers, whatever, kids that come back from school. So I'm torn with, I mean, there's some things we need to change, and there are some things that are good. So that's parking's a concern, and the exit and making it an easy rental. I think if somehow we can look at it, but yet also give it an option for a family. Out of 147 lots, 15 maximum would be multi-generational if they were spread out. It could work. So those my thoughts.
Okay. Commissioner Phillips.
I had a couple of questions. I was doing some interviewing with people in the community that reflected what the lady just mentioned. And the one overbearing question I kept receiving was, how many of these homes are you planning on putting in that particular development?
15.
That was 15?
Out of 147.
Okay. The parking issues were discussed, and here in Menifee, we have something called a hidden density increase, where single-family homes are actually serving as multi-generational homes. And it's amazing how many people you can get into a 2,000 square foot home. the concern was you're building a home that is specifically designed for multi-generational. And we're looking at, as has been pointed out, we are looking at how many houses there are, what's going to happen in the event that senior citizen or kid dies or moves on. You have an empty space that you are paying X number of dollars for, which means invariably that space is going to be rented out. And there may be a lot of unintended consequences. Another thing that was brought up, and I think this will be held off till later, was the pitch of the roof that you're proposing for one of those. I think you wanted 8 to 12. In the city here, we have a limit of 6 to 12. 8 to 12 is kind of steep. And so if you're thinking about the homes that I toured this past weekend that Lennar owned, they all have solar. And nobody in their right mind is going to put one on an 8 to 12. I mean, you've got to take a look at your O&M costs, how you're going to configure that solar array on that roof, which will eventually turn it into an eyesore with an 8 to 12 pitch. You may want to reconsider or rethink the roof pitch. Plus, that will make it more acceptable, visually speaking, to the rest of the community. And finally, the good part is, I don't have a problem with your interest from the outside, having had to deal with parents who slowly degraded as they reached their final years, having an external access just for delivery of the oxygen bottles, emergencies, and at the same time, it was pointed out, you don't have to go tracking through the house just to get to the person who may be obese or incapacitated in some other kind of way. So I'm in favor of that. I'm not in favor of the extra laundry. That to me is something that I just have a real problem with that. I think that you can do very well with one laundry. And I'm basing this primarily on what I've seen in homes that you've already developed here. One house we went into that was on the 14,000 square foot lot, I could put all my grandkids in that thing and a TV, and they would still get lost. That thing is huge. So right. I think you may want to revisit that extra laundry. I don't see a need for that. I am not a proponent of 476 square foot places. I think it says 476 square foot multi-generational suite. And I saw somewhere where you had 900. Yeah. Right. I like that 900 feature because of quality of life. If you get a home of this size, chances are you're going to have an extremely or very active senior or one who's exceeded the national weight standards. And they're going to need to have some kind of space and comfort. So I was thinking more like large people are not going to do well in 476 square feet. You may want to revisit that. The other thing is, are you guys building this as an HOA, or are you going to form an HOA? I saw in here, looks like a template for an HOA rule, CC&Rs that was in there. Now, will that be applicable to this area here? Okay, it's in place, which means that if I read all of that correctly, you're not going to allow people to come in there and rent.
Correct.
And
Article 8.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had the slide and I forgot to pull it up there. I got too excited. Yeah, under Article 8 of the CC&Rs, which is use restrictions and obligations, it basically states that no owner shall be permitted to lease such owner's lot for transit or hotel purpose for a period less than 30 days. No owner may lease less than the entire home. entire lot. In this instance, the home is the lot. So, and that's a restriction across all homes within that community. It's pretty much a restriction we have everywhere, and that's meant to inhibit people from renting out garages and or bedrooms. And then under use restriction, the residents on each lot shall include an attached garage for 2 or 3 passengers. No garage shall be used for residential storage purposes or any other purpose which would restrict the parking and number of motor vehicles for which the garage was designed. Again, what's the word I'm looking for? Convert the garage under the HOA rules. And the HOA would be the enforcement entity at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Carwin.
Yeah, I have 2 questions I think I'm going to direct to staff. If you could go back to the plot plan slide. So with this plot plan, oh, I'm sorry, I meant the floor plan. Thank you. There you go. So if this home was built instead of a next-gen suite, but this was just a bedroom or 2 bedrooms or a great room or whatever, without this second entry door here, and the resident of that home, the owner of the home, wanted to install a door there, would they require a separate permit under our code to do that, or could they just do it?
If they're making it, if they're making it, you mean actually after the home is built, come in and then put a new doorway in there?
But an additional door.
Yeah, more specifically, let's say this wasn't a next-gen suite, but a homeowner in that community decided to retrofit it the way it looks on this plot plan here. Would they be required to, because there's no kitchen in here, so would they be required to permit that separately, or could they just model it that way?
No, they would need to get a building permit. If they're making changes, modifications to the structure itself, we would want them to they would have to get a building permit for that.
So that external door is something that a homeowner couldn't just buy a house and put a door in. They would need a permit for that.
They should get a permit. Yes, they could put one in, but they should be required to get a permit.
And the second question I had for staff would be, as a self-contained living unit with this external door and those kinds of things, does this violate the minimum residence size ordinances in the city of Menifee? We went through this with the apartments before.
No. This still meets.
Right.
Go ahead.
It's considered one single-family residence, one dwelling unit, and the minimum size for a dwelling unit is 750 square feet. So the home as a whole exceeds the minimum dwelling unit size.
But if this had a kitchenette in it, it would then be a second unit? Is that what was determined previously?
If it had a stove or oven range, it's really the addition of a second kitchen or the cooking facilities that makes it a second unit versus a guest house sort of situation or guest room.
Thank you. I've got a question for the Lennar folks. I saw on your list of prior next-gen communities, it looked like the first one was Chino.
Yes.
Why Chino was the first one?
Because I think it was alphabetical.
It was also chronologically the first.
Chino and Wildemar are the first 2, yes.
Okay, how did you decide those as your first attempts at these units?
We had, it was in 2011, we had, that was a multi-generational, it's a predominantly Asian buyer. And we are going first in the Asian buyer is a cultural buyer that sometimes has multi-generational. We also did Wildemar because we thought there we would also experience the right demographic for trying to get our first steps into the next generational living.
What was that demographic?
It was younger. It was typically boomerang kids in the city of Wildemar is what we were experiencing and who we were buying to.
So has Lennar done any research post-purchase on, say, 5 years down the line, how many homes are being used for this next-gen purpose?
I cannot give you statistical analysis of all of our homes. We do remain in contact, and I am on 4 different HOA boards that we have next generational living. We have not gone back individually to each home and said, who's in the space? Candidly, we are about to do that here in the next couple months because we also want to see how we can make the next gen experience better because it is a part of our portfolio. But I don't have any statistical analysis for you right now.
What is your anecdotal experience from being
My
on 4
anecdotal
HOA
experience
boards.
is the buyer that comes here is a specific buyer. They have it for a need, and they have been using it for that need. I have not had one experience in the 5 years, including being on HOA boards, where I've had a complaint that a next gen's being rented out. Could I sit here and say that I guarantee there's no next gen being rented out? I cannot do that. But what I can say is anecdotally, these are being used for the purposes they originally intended, because of when you walk in there, either you want it or you don't. And those people that don't want it would be typically the ones that would rent out the spaces. The people that want it are figuring out a way that they want to live together with people. I'm also experiencing Chino's a prime example, is we have a lot more pedestrian traffic, because we've got a lot more people that are elderly that are living in those communities that are watching the kids. It's pretty phenomenal when you go to the College Park, is the community we have up there. And they're watching the kids, they're doing the things, and there's a lot of interaction within the communities that we have there.
So I guess the crux of my question is, you've only had these floor plans through Lennar since 2011.
Correct.
And the people who want these homes want them for that specific purpose. As morbid as it sounds, or if you're talking about boomerang kids, there's a finite chronology to that specific purpose. Eventually, the boomerang kids are either going to get their own place or whatever, and older folks who move back in who need the assistance, who are in that state, are going to pass on. What happens to these people who want this home for this specific purpose at that time?
I would say that the baby boomer generation, we have another 15 plus years of that segment of population, plus the length that they're living. I don't know how to answer that question specifically, other than what we've seen is a lot of them convert maybe into a man cave. There are some that have done that. But when it comes to, typically, what I would guess is going to happen, because we haven't really experienced too many people buying it and having whoever was there, part of them passing away, to your point, is they probably would sell it because it no longer fits their need, would be my anticipation of it. So what probably would happen is, I no longer need this for this purpose, and I will sell it and reach out into the market. These do sell for a premium, and have sold for a premium throughout every community we've been in. That brings more higher tax revenues, but they all sell for a premium.
Which brings me to my next question.
Yes.
What's the vacancy rate on your communities with the next gen homes currently?
We've had a good sales season.
Glad to hear that.
And it depends upon your community, and it's really, vacancy rate isn't quite what what I'd use. I'd probably use is how many complete homes unsold do I have?
Let's stay around here, Wildemar, Temecula.
Wildemar, Temecula. I just got done from Rancho Bella Vista. We have 3 active selling communities. I currently have for sale 2 homes, under construction 62. In the Wildemar at the Lakes, I think I'm under construction with 8 and sold 5 since grand opening, which is 1 a week. I don't have any next gens there, so I really can't speak to that. In the city of Temecula, which is where I live, I just bought a home, I said, with the next gens. We're all sold out there. We're just closing up shop. Our grand opening North Ranch will open 8, and I bet you we'll sell 6. And that does include a next gen home. That's actually 25% of the mix there in the Wildemar community, right off of Clinton Keith. Generally in the south area, Menifee's candidly has been our hardest sales market in the southern Riverside area. It's been our most challenging for us. The Lakes has been a great, both of them are great communities, but again, it goes back to finding buyers and getting everybody into the spaces that they need. And I don't know how many at Menifee Hills. We just, we've had a hiatus of starting homes there for the last 4 months. 16, 2 left. Yeah, 16 with 2 left to sell. We actually had, that community wasn't, it's a great community, but again, it's getting the buyers up the 15 corridor a little bit.
When are you looking to start this project?
We're under construction now. What the intent is to, if we got the concept approved, and it goes back to this concept of the next generation. If it's not next gen, then we probably would just shelve it, because for us, it goes back to letting the people be what we think and what we found and experienced in 392 times what they want. Would be to sit down with the existing members, because we'd want to meet with the HOA and go about the plotting component of this. Because prior to us ever, we didn't want to upset the apple cart prior to us saying yes, if the planning commission said it's okay to use this as a home, we would expect to go back with the residents. Because again, we're not here to upset the residents. That's not our goal. It is to say, okay, let's talk about plotting and make sure it's not on Pamela? Pamela's street. Again, that's not the intent. So that's where our intent would probably get out here. If we have to go through the SP conformance, it'd probably be July, right? Whatever that time frame is there. And I ultimately, if the concept's okay, what we'd want to do is come back for the lakes, which is our next community. We have one community active and another community out there in the general. We'd want to come back to this board and try to get that introduced into that plan mix as well. Because what we feel is it's an offering, especially here with Sun City so close.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
You've answered the question. I appreciate that. I don't mean to cut you off,
Oh,
but
no, hey, cut me off.
I do mean to cut you off. But
Anything else?
no, that's it for me.
Okay, first of all, I do see a need for this type of thing. Well, Lisa's mom lived with her. My grandmother-in-law lives with my mother-in-law in a large home in Carlsbad. My mom's probably going to end up living with my sister. So there is a need for it. I see it. I need to balance that with the risk of it becoming a rental. Now, the reason I say that is I've already experienced 3 places where that's happening. And I won't say where these are residing in Menifee. 2 of them are my friends. One has a casita and had a family member living in there. They left. He now rents it to a crazy lady. And I can say that with near medical certainty. A neighbor in my neighborhood had a house, and I live on a little acre and a quarter, medium-sized homes, added on a bunch of illegal apartments, added on to the house illegally. And now my friends live next to them, and they had 2 or 3 people renting different rooms back there, and our neighbors have had nothing but problems with their break-ins in their cars, stealing things, because it's a high turnover, because it's small units, and it's a problem. My other neighbor next door has a house, like it's a next-gen house, basically. But it wasn't built there. This was built in the 80s. They converted it inside. The only entrance is from the inside, and Grandma lived there. I knew Grandma for about 15 years, and it worked very well. But other areas, they basically do turn into rentals with the economy. So I would like to see this product, but with a safeguard. And we kind of talked about, I was talking with staff and some of the things. The key to all this is that outside door. I can live with just about everything else. In fact, I think it's a great design. But that outside door is really what allows it to be a rental. Everything else I can pretty much live with. And I think it's a good idea. So if that kills your marketing, I'm sorry, but to us, the danger of that, of what the true experience has been of the rental, isn't worth that. So the thing is, when I bought a home, I bought it specifically because I didn't want to live next to an apartment building. And that's unfortunately what some people are experiencing, even with the placement and all that. So that really is the key to it, is that outside door. And the other thing about the COA, not COAs, I'm sorry, the HOAs is if someone is violating it, and I went through this with a neighbor because a neighbor did not put up a fence they were supposed to. And the city told me, they said, we have no authority over that. You as a neighbor or the homeowners must sue that person to enforce it. And my neighbor doesn't have money to sue to put a fence up. She doesn't have that money to do it. So really, while on paper it looks good, the teeth behind it takes a lawsuit. So again, it goes back to the possibility of the rental. I like the independence living. I don't really have a problem with this independent laundry, because if you don't have an outside door, then it really stops that rental opportunity. I would love Grandma to do her own laundry. Really would. That would be fine. It's that outside door that's the deal killer for me. Go ahead.
Look how close it is. Yeah, laundry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not married to that, so either way you want to go with that, I would support it. Let me just look over one other item here. I'm glad you did the universal design. That's excellent. Single gas heater, water meter, that again protects it from being a rental. That's really my big issue on there, protecting it from being a rental, because the experience is it's happening. And this product is new enough that I don't think we see the long-term effect quite yet. So those are my thoughts on it. What does the commission, it sounds like you don't want an outside door. I don't want an outside door. I think you don't want an outside door. Do you like the other aspects of it? If that, what other are deal killers for you? What are some definite no-goes?
Frankly, I echo almost all of your comments in that I'm absolutely in favor of it. The outside door, to me, any of the media that I was compelled by, we were focused, I don't know how many of you got an opportunity to read the news articles, but the one that was compelling to me was there was a Fiscal Times article about a gentleman named Tom Moser who moved his 83-year-old father in with him, and that allowed him to detect early signs of a heart problem and saved his life, and it was very heartstring oriented. With this separate door going in and out, he'd never see his 83-year-old father, and he wouldn't detect the heart problem, and his father would have died.
Well, and the
So basically, this floor plan would have killed Tom Moser's father.
Well, and the number one issue with seniors is them feeling safe. And having that outside door, knowing the seniors that I know in this community, especially the women, the widows, and that are alone, I think that just takes away that safety element, that extra door. I don't know, in this situation, looking at the laundry, as I just pointed out to the other commissioners, you're suggesting this independent laundry, but yet the laundry facility is just right there, right outside their door, if there was one. Both of those issues do go against our multi-generational compliance that we asked for before. So I encourage staff to, Lisa, to, I don't know, the shared laundry, it could probably go either way, but I'd be willing to compromise on that with no outside door.
I do have one technical question. One of the things that they were asking for was, instead of a specific plan amendment, they want a substantive conformance. Does that in any way, or I guess in your opinion, if they took off the outside door, is it substantively conforming, so we could rationalize this as substantive conforming rather than a specific plan amendment? Legal counsel on that one.
Well, it's ultimately up to staff to look at the specific plan as a whole and determine if this would be consistent with the goals and policies within it. I can't speak to the specific goals and policies in this specific plan, so I'd probably defer to Bob or Lisa if they want to talk about that further.
Okay. Where I'm going at is I wouldn't mind a substantive conformative as long as this does not set precedent, number one, for other specific plans that want to get around having to do an amendment, and number two, is it legal? I mean, is it truly substantive? Did you have a comment?
Well, in general, we were looking for direction about amending the specific plan. The Planning Commission requirements that were established in February 2014, it was a little bit vague for staff, and when we were reviewing the proposal from Lennar and we came to if the project is within a specific plan, the developer shall amend the specific plan to address multi-generational units. We weren't quite sure what specifically you were looking for to be amended within the specific plan, and whether or not the specific plan document needed to be amended versus processing a substantial conformance, because these are single-family homes based off of the interpretation we had. So single-family residential homes are allowed in this specific plan. There's criteria for what the house has to look like on the outside. There's criteria for the lot, where the house has to be placed in the lot, but we don't have any specific design criteria for multi-generational suites. So we weren't sure if that's what you wanted us to add to the specific plan. Basically, the guidelines you provided in February 2014, or if you were looking for something more substantive. With this specific plan, it can be a case by case. If we had a tract come with 1,000 homes and half of them were going to be multi-generational suites, we could look at it each case by case. But with this specific project, we had 15 homes out of 147 in the tract itself, and then there's thousands of homes in the entire specific plan, and as you saw from the exhibit, most of it is built out or already approved.
So you're comfortable with this as substantive conformance? Okay. Commissioner Carwin?
The question for Lennar is, with this floor plan here, hypothetically, if we approve this minus the exterior door, would that kill the project? Do we even need to worry about it? If we said no to the exterior door, would that just end the discussion?
It probably will.
That's kind of the impression that I got.
I don't want to speak for sure. I would ultimately be the decision of our division president. And the rationale, I don't mean to be, it's not being unreasonable. I get the fact that
The exterior door is kind of a key feature to the next gen product.
It is a key feature to the concept of the independence.
Right.
And that, so, but does that mean that we wouldn't build it? I would probably give it an 80% not, but then again, I'd leave that to my division president ultimately to make that decision.
Thank you.
And, you know, if you have the space, they will come. When my mother-in-law lived with me, I knew several other people that had in-laws or parents living with them. My home was not a multi-generational home, but we had the space, and it worked out well. There was no exterior door. There was never a problem. We didn't have a low threshold. I wish we did, because she ended up in a wheelchair. I wish I had wider hallways. I wish I had grab bars in the bathroom. I wish the bathroom was a little larger to get around. Having the experience, I know it will work. So I know it would work without an exterior door. I would like to stick to that with not having an exterior door.
Are there any other universal design features that the commission would like that are not there? That was one of the things that staff wanted direction on.
I didn't see any. I liked everything they had, including.
Did we see, I don't think we had a list of all the universal design elements that are in the universal design.
A while ago, yeah, like a year ago, we had
Right, we
something
had-
handed out.
But I don't remember everything. I know they covered a lot here, but was there a low threshold on the door, the main door? It wasn't, I didn't remember reading it, that's why. Right there.
In the actual, on page 6 and 9, it says lower threshold. On her PowerPoint, it doesn't say that.
If it's in the staff report, they are providing it. We didn't put everything in the PowerPoint.
I'd mirror what Lisa said. If you build it in a way, I don't think the outside door is going to kill it. There's just so many people living that way with their family. So let's go ahead then, and then I propose. Well, did you have a comment?
Yes, I have. I have just one comment, and that when I was driving around in all these various communities, I've seen these doors already on homes that are already built out. The exterior door. They have them in the project that's just south of where you guys are, on the other side of Salt Creek over there, in that development there. There's about 4 or 5 homes. That D.L. Horton?
D.R. Horton.
Oh, D.R. Horton. Yes, there are several homes over there that feature this exterior door in addition to the regular door. And I've also seen it out in the latest Artie Murphy area. They have that same kind of door. And I saw a couple of them over off of Valley View Boulevard too, in the established community. So I'm wondering, we already have that feature in a number of homes here. Why are we looking at it in this way for this particular project? That's the only concern I would have. It's not that I'm.
Doesn't comply.
It's not that I am against the exterior door. For me, having to deal with individuals who are extra large people, having that door is a great feature for emergency response and emergency services. And that's, if you really want to take it down to nuts and bolts, that's my only concern. Thank you.
So having said that, do we have it sounds like we have, we like the design, three of us don't like the door, you're okay with the door. So do we want to make a motion to pass it then with an amendment changing the exterior door? Are we comfortable with that, or how do we want to do this?
Question for staff. Do we need to make it in our motion anything to change the specific plan or anything regarding the code or legislation along with, if we approve, if we were to make a motion to approve this without the door, do we need to add any other language to that?
I think that in terms of finding that and looking at what the specific plan has in terms of meeting that, if we could meet the criteria in terms of the substantial conformance, if the direction is that's the way we could go and make that determination, then we would go ahead and we would request that as well then. So if you want to address the door and if we can make the findings for substantial conformance, because if we can't, then they'd have to come back and get do the specific plan amendment.
I'm okay with substantive conformance. Is the rest of the commission?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So then I make well, can chairs make motions? Yeah? Okay. I'll make a motion to, actually, we're not doing a resolution here, we're just giving guidance to staff, right?
For them to comply.
Yeah, to what we're doing is approving the new plan type for the Menifee Hills residential development as amended with substantive conformance, and the remove the permitted out second door. That's going to be excluded from it.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Do we need to say anything about the laundry facility?
Oh, what do you guys want to say about the laundry? It's neither here nor with, I'm okay with it, you're not okay with it, Lisa, what, Earl and
I could go either way.
Yeah, I can go either way.
You're okay? So,
Yeah.
okay, allow the laundry. I think that's it then. Do we need to do a vote?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
As a point of clarification, the primary reasons for not having the exterior door are that it makes the home vulnerable to rental?
It doesn't comply.
Okay, and the second one, it doesn't comply with what we already have established. I don't want to change from what we already have established. I would like to remain consistent with that. So, the vulnerability to the rental thing is something, I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't considered that. So, I changed my mindset.
Okay. So do we want to take a roll call or just a
Yes, sir,
verbal?
please.
Do you have a kind of
Chair
official-
Thomas did the motion, right? And
Yeah, we have a motion and a
Did
second.
a second, yeah.
Can you read what the motion is?
Good luck.
Just to make sure you understand what we were saying.
Should we withdraw the motion and reassert it?
Yes, that would be helpful.
I move to withdraw the motion that's pending.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so let's go ahead and make a motion to approve this new plan type for Menifee Hills Residential Tract 31582-1, with the exception of do not allow the exterior door, do allow substantive conformance, and do allow a individual laundry, two laundries. Do allow it.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Carwin.
Is this the roll call vote?
This is.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips. Vice
Yes.
Chair Sobek.
Yes.
Chair Thomas.
Yes. So now we'll go ahead and move on to item 9.1, which is,
Well, they got one, we got one.
what's that?
Compromised.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I forgot about that because I had it in my notes.
Well, that
He
should,
said he would agree to it, so.
yeah.
Is that something that we could put in, like say a condition of approval? The roof pitch, they want that 8 to 12?
That wasn't one
They
of
had
the
already
issues.
addressed the roof pitch issue. The
Yeah.
current plan didn't have the high roof pitch. That was from the first staff report.
That was the first report.
And they did end up complying with the required roof pitch of the specific plan.
I think what Commissioner Phillips, what you saw was the report from the commission meeting from a year ago,
Right.
where we discussed that. The pitch, the roof pitch wasn't on this one.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah, that's why. It was the old, they gave us a copy of what we discussed before.
That's the hard part.
Okay, now to the fun stuff. Just a note to the commission, if we could be as efficient as possible on going through this for two reasons. Number one, just that we have so many chapters to go through in the future. We need to get through it. We need to do it diligently. We need to do it obviously detailed and appropriate, but as efficiently as possible. So, I'm going to turn it over to Development Director to handle it from here.
Okay. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, good evening again. As you recall, this item was presented to you at your last Planning Commission meeting. At that time, there were a number of items and discussion and input as well. We've provided some direction has been provided by the Planning Commission, and I want to acknowledge Commissioner Phillips for his input as well in this, and we've had some good discussions on it, and I do appreciate that as well. Unfortunately, Mr. Leclerc has hurt himself and of course is not here this evening. But what he did was he went through, took the changes and what was discussed at the last Planning Commission meeting. He incorporated those changes into the staff report. In addition to that, Commissioner Phillips also went through, made some proposed modifications and changes. I think a lot of them are consistent. It's just a matter of maybe modifying how the wording is it's not necessarily the actual regulations and content specifically, but those just, I think, to help make it read more clearly or in terms of the overall ordinance itself. So those changes then have been included in, I believe each of you got a copy that have both the yellow and the turquoise colors in it as well. So that reflects the changes, and Mr. Leclerc did go through and try to combine those comments as well. So those have been presented, to you this evening. Does everyone have a copy of that? And this is something that there is a little bit of an urgency. I will just put that out front so we're not kind of beating around the bush on that. We do need to move forward with this to get it to the city council for a couple of reasons. And our community services director is here with us this evening as well, and he could probably speak to that a little bit more in detail also. But we can go through the changes as they're here, page by page, if you like. We would hope if there aren't any changes, maybe we could just skip through or move past those then. If you're comfortable with the changes that Commissioner Phillips has made as well, we can go that direction. It just really depends on what level of comfort that the commission has with the proposed changes and what's been presented to you in the document with both changes combined.
Is there, commissioners have any specific sections that concern you that you want to discuss individually?
I have one. Do we need to formally say public hearing, even though there's nobody in the room?
Yeah, this is a continuation of the public hearing that we.
It was left open.
It was left open, yeah, it was left open, right. I think we'll still need to ask.
Yeah, we noticed it, yeah.
And we continue to a date certain as well.
Okay, so do we have any public testimony on this?
We don't?
Then, okay, so do we want to close the public hearing at this point to do the discussion, or do we leave it open and discuss?
Close. Yeah.
Close, okay, so let's go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:16.
Can reopen it if we need to.
Go ahead and discuss this, so going back, did you have a question on these specific areas, Commissioner?
Yes, I've got two. One, I had put in the section, my comment is tree preservation regulations. I'm not quite sure that's the best place I could find to see it on the version that I have here. I guess it's page 14, 9.86.110. It's been re-enumerated under, because Commissioner Phillips added a section in the beginning. Yeah. So, one aspect that I think could be added at the end of this list, that I've seen from my experience, it doesn't provide for removal. I would like to see language that a property owner must prune or remove portions of a tree on that owner's property that have caused damage, deviation, or hazard to paved roadways or walkways. We see some trees that grow out and they grow under the sidewalk and they cause a pitch to the sidewalk. Where is that? It's in the so that language is in there because it seems enumerated in this section. Things like the overhanging. I was specifically referring to nuisance trees. Section B3 has this similar language in it where it says due to growth, location, root expansion, etc. It's in the same section I'm referring to. It's section 110, which mine is numbered, page 14 here. It looks like it's hand numbered. And section B, so 110B3. And in the law, something that's omitted is considered not to be considered. So this language here, section B3, says a tree due to its overall growth, location, root expansion may negatively impact sewer, power lines, gas lines, water lines, or other public improvements. To me, to have that specifically listed in this section and leave out paved roadways and walkways, kind of, I suppose it could be. Yeah, I just, the reason for that is I would love to be able for our city attorney, when faced with a lawsuit by somebody who trips over the sidewalk, to be able to say, hey, that's the homeowner's problem. Secondarily, it would give the city the right to go in and change it, fix the public walkway, and then bill the property owner for the sidewalk under the violations section. If it's that specific, it would be really easy to enforce, because that's something that's going to happen to the public. These sewer lines and things like that are a little bit more esoteric.
No, just that I would recommend stating including but not limited to, so that way it doesn't pigeonhole it into.
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent comment. I noticed that it was missing, but not limited to. Yeah, exactly. And then the other one, I think Commissioner Phillips did a yeoman's job on this, and I applaud him for his meticulousness in going through this, and I'm not going to go through his comments at all. Section 130, which is protection of existing trees. It's on page 18, 9.86.130. In section A, I was confused a little bit by the language where it says, and I'm reading it as stricken here, all trees to be saved shall be enclosed by a construction barrier such as chain link fence or other means prior to the issuance of a grading permit, building permit, or before commencement of work. Those seem to be three separate timelines, three separate signposts. Is it whichever is first? Because you're saying should be done before three things happen. That doesn't make much sense. So without knowing too in detail the order these things generally go in, can they be done in different orders and we should say whichever is first, or is one of them generally first before the others?
You may not always need a grading permit, so you can go jump to the building permit or some other work, but we could add wording that says whichever is chronologically first. Whichever one occurs first, yeah.
Right. And I'm just double checking here. That's all that I really had that I think is necessary to bring up.
I want to thank Commissioner Phillips, because I personally hate doing what he does with the detail wordsmithing. That is just Chinese torture. I shouldn't say that. It's torture. So thank you for doing that.
I should let you in on a secret. I'm addicted to writing. I would rather write than look at a commercial on TV, and I've been doing it ever since I learned how to write. So
Bless your soul.
thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Charles has really made it a really wonderful addition to my life.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not,
Well,
but
just to show you how boring my lifestyle is, you know.
Commissioner Lisa Sobek, do you have any changes, edits, anything?
Well, I have a question for Robert. The difference between the landscape standards compared to this, how do they work together? Can you explain to me? Because as I'm reading this whole thing, I'm making notes, but then I see other comments, and so before I make my statements.
Sure. The authority to enforce standards, both in the park and the landscape portions, those guidelines, falls within and is outlined within the ordinance that you see in front of you. That's what Commissioner Phillips made all of the edits to. The standards themselves, those guidelines, can be amended, changed as organic. It can happen as needed, and for those, they actually get adopted by resolution. This just gives the city the authority to enforce them on a move-forward basis. So you won't have all the nuts and bolts of the landscape or park standards incorporated into the ordinance, because it would make it a very exhaustive document, and every time you needed to change it, you'd have to go through a public hearing process, and it's drawn out. So it simplifies the process and references them only within this ordinance.
Okay. I made several notes in the standard. Would that be something I could come in and just share my thoughts? I noticed going through this that you did add the verbiage 3 inches of mulch. I appreciate that. I just have some, like, as I went through this and as I look around the city and read that they're supposed to be enforcing, they're supposed to be, they're supposed to be at a year out at the finish of planning, they're supposed to do a project, what do you call it? Where they check everything, review.
Punch list,
okay.
right. Job
And
well.
I'm looking at all these projects around the city. I'm like, who is enforcing this? Who's checking this? Is it because of the costs? Is it we don't have enough manpower? How do we report these things if we see them? Why aren't HOAs abiding to these things? So those are kind of like, I made most of my comments last time on the code, but this time I looked over the standard a lot. And so I was making notes and just had a lot of questions. And I don't want to enforce anything upon the city that's going to cost the city a lot of money, but I see we have these guidelines, we have these standards, but yet I don't think they're being done. For instance, when they redid Newport Road and they had to put in the like-to-like landscaping that they took out, that's what it says in here. I live at an entrance where they added a light and they took out all the landscaping, died, so they replaced it. They did not replace it with landscaping that was the same size they took out. It was much smaller. I even took pictures and reported it to city that when they dug the holes, they didn't even put the plants all the way in the holes. The holes weren't even big enough. They were sticking out like about that much. So maybe a year out, the plants are still going to look okay, but as they get bigger and because the root ball is bounded, they could die. So it's just things, the little things. Do we need to make a year, maybe sometimes longer than a year? The responsibility, the mulch, the maintenance. And so those are just things that I have that I'd be happy to sit down to share. You can explain and say, hey, maybe that is a good idea or maybe it's not. So.
Yeah, definitely. The standards, I think, especially in the next week, as we prepare the final for council review, we'd be happy to sit down with you and go through and find the items that might need some clarification in the guidelines. for the review of projects as they're completed, and then 12 months after that, when the warranty period is expired, typically there is a deposit or bond for the improvement in the public facility, sometimes even in the private facility, where inspectors will be charged against that to come out and ensure that the facility is maintained and it's within the requirement as set by ordinance. For the example you've given, it could be that they didn't have a like-for-like swap out because standards weren't in place at the time.
Okay.
And whatever plan set was approved at the time didn't call for that. So really, the guideline is to state that they have to comply with whatever plans have been approved. Any changes that are done thereafter, as this also states, would be reflected in as-built thereafter. So the inspectors are constantly checking against those things. Not so much, hey, did this plant last? That would be a warranty item. And to give you guys another example, at the park level, Audie Murphy Ranch Sports Park is going through a number of warranty repairs right now as a result of staff going out and doing inspections. So it does work, it does take time, but it is also paid by typically from the developer's deposits. So.
Okay. Also, one other item, and I didn't see it, and maybe I just missed it, but is there anywhere that we can put a wording, as I've mentioned before, and see all the irrigation pipes exposed, especially in the homeowners on the slopes? Is there anything that we can put in our code that that the HOAs then have to put in their code saying that they will maintain the slopes, the hillsides in the HOA properties? I mean, is there something we can say that they have to do that?
It sounds more like a code enforcement requirement, and Bob can probably speak to a little bit more to that than I can. But for the establishment period, they'd still have to comply. The standards do call for it to maintain at that level in perpetuity. So
right.
3 inches at all times.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and I'd just like to follow up what Robert was saying. That's correct. We have the standards here and then the guidelines, and I just want to jump back a little bit. Those guidelines are adopted, and they're by reference within this document here will essentially recognize that those guidelines exist, be part of this. However, they'll be able to be amended a little bit easier because we'll do it by resolution only rather than having to go through the whole ordinance process, the noticing that it's a much more cumbersome process. So that's the idea why those, the guidelines and those, the majority of what is part of this will be able to address those things more quickly. So we can have those address, maybe we need to make adjustments, and we know we're going to need to probably make some adjustments over time. So that'll help expedite that process. But to answer your question with regards to a lot of the improvements that are approved as part of the project, those are whether they're conditions of approval or they're going to be now, once these go into effect, they'll have to meet these requirements. Essentially it becomes, especially on private property, more of a code violation then. If they're not in compliance with the regulations, they're not in compliance with the conditions of approval, then that's something that we could go after or notify them of. It really does get back to your question in terms of code enforcement, the prioritizing of what are the most important types. Kind of have to look at what is important and what's not. And that's by you as the representatives of the city council as well, as to what those priorities are. We've got a limited number of code enforcement officers. So it is a thing that we have to look at. Yeah. But if there is a major issue or problem with landscaping or something like that, then we'll have these in place. We'll be able to go out and enforce those as well. We have that ability to do that.
And the one thing I was just going to add is, we're still going to have the tentative track process by which we can impose conditions when we're approving tracks as well. And so one of the things we can do in there is, obviously they're going to have to comply with the landscaping and all these standards as part of our code, but if there are additional specific requirements for specific tracks, we can do it that way. We can require that they put in certain language in their CCNRs as well, which is something that we commonly do. So that will be another avenue available.
Okay. So I just want to, thank you. I just want to make sure that we do have some wording in here about the irrigation pipes, that at all times they should be covered and not a eyesore. So
yes.
Any other comments?
I have one. I would like to thank, sorry about that. I'd like to thank Ajit for his inputs, helping me out, and interim director Brady for helping me out with the secret portion of this. That had really been a sticking point with me, and I'm glad we got that clarified. And so I wanted to publicly thank you guys for helping jog the old brain here. Thanks again.
Okay, so if we don't have any more comments, I'm fine with what I've gone through. Let's see. So we're going to adopt resolution.
Mr. Chair, if I may, before we go on, if it looks like to me that you're going to, the commission has a level of comfort with the proposed changes that were made here and how they were combined, there are some things that we're going to need to, and assuming you go along and with these, we are going to need to make some, at the staff level, make some kind of adjustments, or there's little corrections and things that we'll need to do. Some of it will be fitting these together. So if we can have that leeway as well, and I think that's the direction, I believe you have that comfort level with staff and with Mr. Leclerc to make those changes to fit these in so they mesh properly with what Commissioner Phillips has done.
You obviously aren't going to make any significant structural changes, but
No.
just other minor things to make it flow and work. I'm okay with that. Is the rest of the commission okay with that?
There are some things, that we'll have to just, I think, based on the interpretation of what we've heard here, just some things as we go through. If we have that latitude, I think that'll be very, very helpful to staff. It'll be the essence of what you've seen here already, but and either be the wording. It'll be the wording that's in front of you, but maybe just kind of modify it a little bit if we needed to make it to fit correctly. There are some section numbers and things like that that have to be adjusted as well. I found in here some other minor corrections. They're more typographical than anything. But there are certain sections where Charles had put in what he had interpreted, and then what Commissioner Phillips has, and they're essentially the same in many ways, but just we're going to need to pick one or the other then as we go through that process. And I think at the staff level, and I believe we can work with that, and we'll continue to work with Commissioner Phillips then, and I think we can get that finalized and get it to the City Council at, what date is that?
April 1st is our goal.
So we'll work on that and get that turned around and then get that back.
Okay.
So if that's good, I appreciate that confidence in staff. Thank you.
Yes. So having said that, we need to approve PC 2015 Resolution 2015-2 and 3 and 4 tonight, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As amended by the comments made shortly before this in regard, did you make a note as to those specific changes that Lisa Meyer and Carwin have brought up? Not Lisa, I'm sorry. Lisa.
Yes.
Yes. I got those also.
Lisa Meyer's on the council.
Yeah, that's right. I almost called you Lisa Meyer earlier tonight, too.
That's
So
okay.
would someone like to make a motion? Who would like to do the motions on these, starting? Do we do all three at once or
I think we should
individually?
I had a question about these resolutions. Now, are they part of this whole thing? Because there are some of these applicable goals and policies that I had a whole lot of problems with, and I just left them alone. Right. Right. I had some that I just
Go
said.
ahead. Now's the time to bring it up. Which findings do you have
Okay.
a problem with?
Starting on page 26 of 42.
That's in section 1, okay.
Mhm.
Right. 26.
Right. Our chapter does not deal with building types. LU-1, we're dealing with parks, trees, and landscaping and not building types. I would recommend that be stricken. Housing element.
Well, let's stop and talk about it.
Okay.
So the purpose of one of the things the staff has to do is anything that we pass must be consistent with existing goals and policies. So
Right.
what part of that, you're saying it has no relevance, is what you're saying?
Building types and the land use, resulting in a community where I couldn't marry that up with what we have in the code.
Can a legal counsel say the relevance of that to this?
Or
Well, I mean, it does say land uses as well, but it's up to your interpretation. If you feel that that particular policy isn't
relevant
to this, then we can strike it. It's not in conflict with it, but maybe you just don't think that it's
Exactly.
not consistent.
Exactly.
But I'm looking at it as this is a goal written already in our general plan. And what they did is they put it in here to show us that this goes along with the general plan. And I think in the general plan, the way I'm interpreting it is they lumped it together, land uses and building types that result in a community where residents of all stages of life, employers, workers, and visitors have a diversity of options of where they can live, work, shop, and recreate within Menifee. So the land uses is kind
Yes,
of
and my objection to that was this chapter specifically addresses landscaping and tree preservation and parks. It doesn't deal with building types, and that's where I have a problem with that.
But
and
do you believe that it deals with? Sorry, do you believe that it
No.
deals with land uses?
I'd have to really stretch that.
Such as, well,
Yeah, because when I look at the land uses you're talking, I'm thinking residential buildings, I'm thinking about housing styles, commercial, stuff like that. And when I look at policy LU 1.4, this is exactly what I think should be there. That would be the featured goal for this particular element, as well as policy LU 1.9. These are more relevant than the extra vague LU-1.
The question comes, does the definition of land use and building types cover the appurtenance of landscaping? Would you say it does or does not, legal counsel?
I mean, I would say it does, but it's up to your interpretation. You're the ones that are making the findings, so it's the planning commission's
If I may, the way I read this is, the city of Menifee's general goal when it comes to land use is this. This resolution that we're adopting tonight falls under that umbrella. It doesn't deal with all of our goals of land use. It deals with a specific element of it, which being park design, et cetera, et cetera. But this is just the general overvasive goal umbrella under which this thing is brought. And rather than changing the goals for every specific chapter, it covers a broad variety of chapters, and you can use the same goal for a number of different chapters. They all comply. It's an economy of language rather than changing the goal for every chapter.
You're saying it's relevant then? You think it's relevant?
Yeah, well, I don't think this chapter is about building types. It's not. But this goal, you can use the same sentence, the same language for a number of different chapters in the code rather than change it out every single time.
And what I'm saying is that it doesn't fit as well as LU 1.4 and LU 1.9, which are much more specific to the fact that we are dealing with parks, trees, and preservation.
Well, you're right, because one's a goal, the others are policies. The goal is the ethereal idea. The policies are the specific targeted implementation.
Right.
So I think that's, you're dealing with a broad concept and then more specific. I think that's how it's structured in all of these.
What do you think, Lisa?
Well, understanding the general plan, as Commissioner Carwin suggested, it is an umbrella, and what it's showing is just that this, what I'm understanding is that this what is this called?
This is the ordinance.
The ordinance does take into consideration and follows the general plan. And it's just a guidance. Doesn't mean it changes anything in here. It just shows that we are consistent with the general plan as an umbrella. This is the more detailed. This is the nuts and bolts, is what I understand, and that this goes along with that. Yes, I agree, it's not building types, but they lumped some land uses and building types. And land uses are any kind of land use within the city. It's very general, very general. It is very general.
So are you wanting to die on this hill, or are you willing to go forward, Earl?
Let's move forward, because I had,
Let me just-
I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I had,
If it's
like,
that important to you, I would keep it going, but if.
no,
you're willing to move on-
I'm going to say it's not really that important. The second one was housing element. We're talking about diverse housing stock and housing design. I don't see how that can fit. And so, whatever you guys decide, I had a problem with the circulation. We're talking about a road network rather than parks, trees, and landscaping. I can't fit that in. And the other one was scenic highway corridors. I don't think we have one, do we?
215 is a scenic highway corridor, the whole,
Is
anything
there
on
one?
the west and east within quarter mile or something of the freeway is a scenic highway.
Oh, because I looked at the Menifee wall, and I just, boy, if I had a sledgehammer, that,
You know what? You know
the
what?
Menifee
Yes.
wall, that mile and a half
Oh, yeah. That's
obstruction,
That's because we didn't have
that in place.
that in place.
So that's an unintended
But you know what?
consequence.
Looking at
Okay.
this, Commissioner Phillips, for
Uh-huh.
me, again, yes, this is not about housing. This is not about circulation. But what I read in here about the design and the landscaping, they help the housing element be able to accomplish their goal.
Kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, and the circulation, not when it listed like trees that don't block roadways and trees that are so far away from the street. I can understand how the landscaping helps to accomplish the general plan. That's the way I look at it.
Right, and these are specifically addressed in the open space and conservation element that gets you right to the chapter that we're discussing. And that's why I said, well, I don't see why we're putting in roads, because I look at roads and circulation in a different light, because I'm thinking transportation and not landscaping. Whereas in the open space, it takes you right back to the viewscape from the road, how the road is going to be framed by the landscape. And this is why I had an objection to that particular circulation element. And the same holds true with the diverse housing stock. I would like to keep elements of relativity together that bring out our chapter rather than scattergunning this thing all over the place. And that's just my opinion.
If I may make a comment as well, just maybe to help a little bit. Each of these is, you'll see, I mean, there's the goal listed, then there's a corresponding policy that's underneath. So if you kind of drill down, and what this says, the applicable goals and policies include. So in order to include that goal where that policy, and for example, under the housing, let's say, yeah, the diverse housing stock, but if you go down to that, look at the policies, the policy has landscaping, open space, some of those things that address what we're talking about here tonight. The other one is, again, HE 1.7. It includes, the community features that distinguish Menifee from other cities in the region. It's that green, that landscaping, that's something that you see. I think with the circulation as well, you look into that, it's the same thing again. We want that, when you drive into the city of Menifee, you want to notice a difference in terms of that landscape, and that parkway, that median is going to be landscaped, and eventually get to that point where you see that difference, and that's part of that circulation element of our streets that are part of that, the landscaping, the bikeways, all of those things. Those are the policies. I guess what I'm trying to say is you got to almost look at the policy to see if that one is applying, and then you kind of go back up and see, well, you've got to include that goal to keep that policy in there.
Okay.
if that makes sense. Okay.
I have been
Robert, did you have a
so
comment?
trained.
No, I don't know if that, I'm just trying to, if that helps.
Clarify.
That's
That helps.
exactly what I need.
Okay,
That
okay.
clarified everything.
Well, good.
Is there anything else, Earl?
No, sir, that was it. That was it.
Okay.
Rob.
We appreciate your attention
Yes.
to detail.
And
So-
and you know what, before you make the motion, I didn't thank him for all the work he did on this as well, and staff, so, a lot of good work here, thank you.
So just to clarify, 2015-2 creates chapter 9.86, which is the ordinance. PC 2015-3 creates the park guidelines, and 2000-4 is the landscape guidelines. So that's why there's three different resolutions. So would somebody like to make a motion? Can we do all three at once, or do we have to do individually?
I do them
Separate.
separately. Yeah.
Okay, who would like to, Earl, do you want to make a motion on resolution 2015-2?
Yes, I would like to move that we approve resolution number what was it again? 2000?
PC 15-2.
Yeah, PC 15-202,
As amended, earlier comments.
from earlier comments.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do a roll call?
Please, Commissioner Carwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sobek.
Yes.
Chair Thomas.
Yes. Okay, Earl, can you do your magic again?
Okay, I'd like to move that we approve resolution number PC 15-203 as amended by earlier comments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Commissioner Carwin.
Yes.
Can
Commissioner
we
Phillips.
hold
Yes.
on a second? Were there amendments to 15-203?
Is that that's the guidelines?
That's the
Park design, I don't
guidelines.
think we did any
Yeah, I don't
amendments,
think-
that's true.
Yeah, I didn't have any
Landscaping.
comments on
Okay.
that. Yeah, I didn't have any.
So, not.
In that case, can we just have a revised motion that we're just passing the resolution as is?
Yes, I revised, so moved.
And a second?
Second.
Commissioner Carwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sobek.
Yes.
Chair Thomas.
Yes.
I would like to move that we adopt resolution number PC 15-204 as written.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Carwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sobek.
Yes.
Chair Thomas.
Yes. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so do we have any other discussion items from any of the commissioners? I'm sorry, from staff? Are there any other discussion items?
No.
No direct development director comments? Do we have any commissioner comments on any other items?
Yes.
Okay.
Last week, Commissioner Carmen and Commissioner Sobek and I attended Planning Academy conference. I'm not going to read all of this, but I just want to make two great statements that I noticed and I took away from that. One of them is, thanks to Miss Jennifer Allen, we look good. I received about 7 or 8 comments on that notebook that you put together, and every time I was walking around, they say, "Who put that together for you guys?" And I said, "Well, it was our secretary. She makes the city look good." And so I wanted to thank you for taking that extra step, because it kind of put Menifee on the map. I mean, we may not be the smartest people in the world, we sure look good at what we do. There was a lot in that conference that were basically updated information, and I found that a lot of it was idealistic, but when we're dealing with our city, we would really have to tailor a lot of the information just to fit our municipal environment. One of the things I recommended last year, and I want to recommend this year, is that we would really help us out if we could get some kind of group communications between the city council, the planning commission, and staff in some kind of informal get-together to where we can learn how they think, how they do processing information, and what their vision is. Because I find myself sometimes in conflict with what the city council wants, what staff wants, and what I perceive that the commission would like to see. I would like to find out what we as a team can do to reach the goals for the city by working together. But this requires that we understand each other's personalities, quirks, eccentricities, and things like that. Without getting too far into the weeds, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Commissioner Sobek, did you have any highlights you wanted to share?
Just attending the conference was good, the 4th through the 6th. And the last speaker on Curbside Chat, this keynote speaker, he talked about finances, and he talked about cities and the community reaching out and helping the city accomplish its goals and saving the city money by doing projects like, for instance, Menifee Better Together. And he sat there and...
Did he mention Menifee Better
He
Together?
didn't mention Menifee, but he described it.
Yeah.
And I was so excited because this is the 3rd year that our city will be doing Menifee Better Together, April 25th. And we are out helping our city, beautifying it and saving the city money by us coming together and working as a community. And so that last speaker of the day, I went up to him afterwards. I was all excited because here we're doing it in our city. We're helping our city, and the residents have a buy-in. We're helping the senior area by beautifying their homes, partnering with Habitat and Sun City Civic Association in the city. And I think we're doing good. And again, I agree with Commissioner Phillips. Thank you, Jennifer, for all the work you did to put together our notebooks. I mean, I could sit there, open my section, and take notes, and it was great. So thank you, and I hope I learned something that will help me be a better commissioner. So.
Okay, good. I'm glad you guys went.
Carwin.
Yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents in. As the new guy, I found the conference very, very helpful in some of the more technical aspects of planning, specifically CEQA. You were mentioning that's foreign language to me when it came to legislating, and the conference that I attended on the nuts and bolts of CEQA were directed right at me. You don't know what this is, here's what it is, and here's what you need to consider in all the different tiers, and it was very, very helpful. Those the exact kind of thing that I needed, and it was that and the AB 1234, which is required, but I took so much away from that. I'm scared to death now of picking up a quarter on the street and whether I have to declare it. But I think it's better to be more diligent than not when it comes to things like that. But really, for me, one of the secondary benefits I got from it, and I didn't realize in advance the benefit it was going to be, was meeting the planning commissioners from other cities and sitting with them and talking to them about the struggles that they're having and how a city like Goleta, the struggles that they're having are very similar to the ones we're having, but in different contexts. And I believe it was the commissioner from Upland I was talking with. It was Upland and Eastvale I spoke to about some of the struggles they're having. A lot of the type of, like this next gen thing we're having, they've got a multiple family living in single properties in a different format, but listening to those same struggles that they're having. And it's interesting. It's sort of like when you meet people from all over the world, and no matter what language you speak, you've got the same problem with your mother-in-law or whatever, you know. It was that kind of bonding to know that we're not in this alone, and that other cities' input on the way they handle things, it's nice to hear that other people are struggling with the same things we're struggling with. The other thing that struck me is how many people asked me where Menifee was. You know, you like to think that we're incorporated, we're on the map, we're doing all of these kinds of things to jump, and still, do you know where Temecula is? Oh, of course I know where Temecula is, just north of there. Oh, okay. I look forward to the day when somebody from this panel can go to that conference and say, I'm from Menifee. People go, oh, you're from Menifee. You know, they know exactly where it is. I struggle with it every day from my office. My office shares a wall with Jay's Barbershop on Bradley Road. Everybody in town knows where Jay's Barbershop is. My office shares a wall. They don't know where I am. I talked to somebody who came into my office the other day, had been going to Jay's Barbershop for a haircut for 3 years. They didn't know my office was next door. I don't know what more I can do. And it's kind of a microcosm of what Menifee's going through. Everybody knows Temecula.
One of those blow-up guys that weighs.
That's right. I should get one. We should get one of those for the city of Menifee. We should get a big blow-up California oak and put it on top of the overpass.
We need to get back in the mining business and discover gold. And
There
then
you
be
go.
on the map.
Well, actually, all you have to do is mention Sun City. And when you say Sun City, they know exactly where we are. Not to say or hint that I did not like that name change, because I bought the house, when I bought my home, it was called Sun City. And I fell in love with Sun City, and I had a problem with Menifee. So mention Sun City in the same sentence, you'd be okay.
Okie dokie. Thank you. If there's no other commissioner comments, we'll go ahead and do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.